All right, happy Thursday, July 26th, everybody. This is a meeting to check in on active development tasks and other various things related to Backdrop CMS. To start off, community-wise, I have to say the contrib issue queue has had so much activity lately. We've got a whole bunch of people porting modules. We've got a whole bunch of people communicating with the Drupal world in Drupal issue queues about existing modules. So thank you everybody for doing all of the work. In the last few weeks, we've had a bunch of people contributing to Backdrop code. So thanks to all of you who have been pitching in more effort than usual. I don't know if that's just timing-wise, everybody's finally working on Backdrop sites at the same time, but it is exciting to see that much progress. Since our meeting last week, there are two new projects that appeared that have stable releases that appeared on backdropcms.org, the language switcher dropdown and views menu support. So thanks to people working on those too. All right, Nate can't be here today. He had another emergency meeting that popped up, but he did go through and update all of the core issues. So I'm going to try and read through them, but if anyone knows more about any of these issues that I do, feel free to interrupt me. So the first section here is for items for our next bug fix release. This is release number 1.10.2. There's a GitHub issue tracker if you want to see all of the releases, but there are two that we want to call specific attention to. One of them, issue number 2904, is getting a database credentials bug that we ran into a couple of releases ago fixed. There's currently a pull request in the queue with a fix, but before we committed the fix, we also wanted to add a message to the status report letting people know if there was a problem with their database password, that they should change it to avoid running into issues in the future. So that just needs a little usability update there to make that ready to commit. The next one is issue 3195, which is a fix for menu accessibility that Wes noticed and wrapped up, I think, last week. So that was committed this week, which is fantastic. So thanks, Wes, for finding and fixing that, and thanks everyone for the review, merge, and all that work. So that's all we have on the priority list for 1.10.2, but there are, of course, more bugs in Backdrop, and if anyone wants to fix any of them, they will get reviewed and merged into that release before the release goes out, if they get done before. All right, so next minor release is 1.11, and that will come out on September 15th, 2018. So we have just over a month left until code freeze. And there is a ton of stuff that a lot of different people are working on for 1.11. So before there's anything else, thank you everybody for all of the amazing ideas and motivation and work that's already gone into this release. I'm really excited to see where we end up by the end of it. So starting off on that list, we have meta issue 3023, which is a list of a bunch of suggested improvements to contact module. I know some improvements to contact module have already gotten in. There's a bunch more issues there for features and user experience improvements for contact module. So those need pull requests. I think there's some pretty clear outlines for things that could happen. There just isn't any progress moving on them right now. Next is color module improvements, and that has a meta as well. The issue is 1905. And there are two issues there that are getting a lot of attention right now. The first one is number 3186, which is reworking the user interface for color. So this is the interface that lets you choose a color and shows you a preview of what your site will look like. And that has gotten a recent update. It needs a review. And there are some questions about JavaScript libraries that were included in Drupal and are now in Backdrop to see whether we still need them or not, perhaps for compatibility with older browsers, perhaps not. So just some feedback on whether we still need those in Backdrop, and if so, what to do with them. And then the next issue, 3028, is to take all of our improvements to color module and apply them to basis theme. And so it looks like we've already got that reviewed and committed this week. So thank you, Joseph, for working on that. Thank you, Wes, for giving it a review. Thank you and Nate for getting it committed. I think it was Nate. Jeff, let me know if I'm wrong about that. But great work, everybody. That's been something that's been kind of bothering us for a while, that it wasn't done, and we just needed a champion to come in and get it knocked out. So I'm really happy to put that one back in. All right, next issue, number 3062, is to bring back our node preview. So this is something we removed in the very beginning of Backdrop because node previews were utterly broken, and we felt having a button named preview that didn't give you a preview was not fair to people, but people do like previews. So Doc Wilmot's gone ahead and implemented a new node preview solution similar to what was done in Drupal 8, which looks pretty good. There's a little CSS question in that issue that we're trying to figure out whether it's worth being a blocker for getting previews in or not. So I think we'd get some more testing on that. It would help us decide whether that's ready to go in or not. Next issue is for core updates. It's number 2118. And there's a big meta about all of the things that we could do for handling core updates. 3 of those are our focus for 111. One of them is to allow people to push a button in their Backdrop site that will update core. So this is not an automatic update, this is a manual update, but it is an update that would not require you to FTP files or commit via Git and push to a server. It would just give you a button. So this would help all of the people who are less able to stay on top of those updates themselves, give them an easier path forward to keeping their sites secure and healthy. I think that needs more reviewing. So if anyone has a site with a client that wants to do their own updates, that wants to test it, or you want to test it yourself, that would be a good thing to put into production and check it out, maybe for the next release of Backdrop and see how that goes. Or put it on an old version, see how it goes. You can get it updated to a new version. I'm not sure how that would work, but we got to try it some more. Mostly need to come to consensus on a different issue. Let's see what that is. Authorize.php. Okay, so authorize.php is a script in Drupal and Backdrop that allows you to use your FTP credentials to copy files onto your server. So there's some questions in there about whether we need authorize.php or not, if it is safe, if we care, if we should keep it, I don't know. So I would just encourage anyone who has feelings on authorize.php to take a look at that issue and see if you think we need to keep that around. Next issue, 1992, is around package signing. So this is, for example, if you were going to use the button that will allow you to update core, we want to make sure that the files that we download using that button that we're about to overwrite your entire site with are the files that we intended to download by pushing that button. We don't want any other service in the middle to be able to correct or modify those files in any way and potentially cause harm to a site. And so we can authorize those files by using one of several options, and we have a couple of recommended solutions and examples in that issue. So I'd encourage anyone who's interested in package signing to check out issue 1992 and weigh in on the various approaches recommended there. The next issue, number 2125, was merged this week. So congratulations on everybody working on that. The task was to move the profiles directory into the core directory. So right now, when you go to upgrade your Backdrop site, all you have to do is copy the core directory over. However, there could be a situation where you're running an install profile and you need that profile to be updated. So it'd be much easier for the one action you have of copying the core directory to include those profiles that you might want to get updated as well. So this task was just to sort of reorganize the location of those profiles, putting them into core, make updates easier. And there's a follow-up issue to that, number 3205, which would make a new empty profiles directory in the root in the same way that we have an empty modules, an empty themes, and an empty layouts directory. I don't think there's a consensus on whether that is 80% use case or not. So if you have feelings on whether there should be an empty profiles directory or not, go ahead and add a comment into issue number 3205. And then our other issue, number 414, is to make core updates automatic. This will come after we get allowing core updates, issue 3105, into core. I think we should have updates first to let people use it, and then once we've decided that it's working the way we want and it's safe and it's reliable, then we will make them automatic. But it is on our roadmap, just so everybody knows. 414. Originally, we decided to wait until Backdrop 2, and since then we've decided that's not necessary. So we will keep plotting forward and see if we can get that automatic update feature in Backdrop 1 as things proceed. Issue number 37, our oldest issue we're actively working on. This is to clean up the modules page. We reached a consensus on that issue, and then a pull request got rolled that wasn't the consensus, and so now we need to figure out a path forward again on that, perhaps splitting the current pull request into 2 or 3 so that we can get something in while still talking about the other changes. Next issue, number 285. This is to get better data on statistics tracking. So not only do we need to track the things that we're currently tracking, like which projects are in use on the site, we want to track more specific information that will help us make better decisions in the future about what is an 80% use case. For example, if we knew who was running which profiles, we would have the ability to tell whether we should add that profiles directory or not. But in order to make changes to that statistic tracking, we need to do a couple of things. We need to first notify people that we are going to be tracking more information than we currently are, so that they have the ability to opt out of that tracking if they want. Number 2, we need to update the tool that does the reporting on the side of each individual site. And then number 3, we need to update the tool that collects the data on the Backdrop side and make sure that it is available and ready to receive the new data we're sending in. So I think the first of those is the easiest, the low-hanging fruit of just saying, like, how are we going to tell people that we're collecting this information and allow them to opt out from it? And then once we get that figured out, the other 2 pieces will depend on what data we're tracking and how we want to count it. And so I think we'll need a little bit more thought into how all of that will be aggregated and how we want to get access to it, and then where/how it should be stored, and then how it should be sent. And we should take a look at the information we're sending now and make sure that it all makes sense for expanding in the future. So it's a bit of a bigger task. I think it's an important one, though. So if anyone wants to work on that, it definitely is a priority. Next, issue 2287 is to rotate images based on their EXIF data. So if, for example, you take a picture on your phone and you rotated your phone knows which way is up on that photo and it stamps that data into the file. And then when you upload that file into your Backdrop site, it doesn't know which way is up and it might turn it the wrong direction. But we have the ability to read that data and rotate it. But after we rotate it, we lose the data. And so we need to either figure out a way to re-save the data back onto the image, or we need to determine that once we've made the rotation, we don't need the data, or we need to, I don't know, reach some kind of consensus on how we want to move forward with this particular problem in order to get that done. There is a pull request number 2887. I haven't looked at it recently, so maybe the consensus has been reached, and we just need to test it. So I would encourage people to look at it and see if you like the solution that's there. Next, issue 3134 is the rich text editor file upload. So I think we're currently working on a rich text editor file browser. Let me see if this is that, or if this is related. Yeah, this is the browser, not the upload. So sorry, I probably wrote that wrong. So this allows, when you're editing an existing piece of content or creating a new one, when you click the image button, not only do you have the option to add a new image or file, but you can browse from all of the images or files that were previously uploaded. And so we've run into a couple of limitations with various use pieces that we're currently trying to sort out. But that, I think, is a huge improvement over what we have now. And I would love to see a defined list of minimum viable product requirements, and then also a set of like a meta follow-up maybe of things that we would like to do that are not preventing it from getting into core. I made my minimum viable product list much shorter than others have because I'm so thrilled with the feature. So I would encourage other people to give it a try and see what you think, and see, like, are those other things that people want really blockers, or are those things we can do in follow-ups? Keeping in mind that we do have more than a month before we release, so we do have time to get a lot of follow-ups in, but also making sure that if they don't get in, we're still happy with the feature as it is. And then if anyone's interested in anything else that has been tagged with the 111 milestone, there is a list on GitHub, which you are welcome to check out. All right, Jackson, since you're here, do you have an update on the Backtrack for Good project for us?
Just encourage people to go check out the BLM 2020Q and participate in building a Backdrop site if they like.
That's great. Nice work on having a public queue with issues up for grab. I think it's a great way to get that stuff done. Great. That's the end of our priority issues for this meeting, but we do have a general discussion open Q&A section where people have recommended a couple of things we should talk about today. The first one is automatic code sniffing. Jeff, do you want to give us an update on that?
Yeah, so those two PRs, one's for against backdropcms.org and one's against Backdrop itself, will launch PHP-CS against the Backdrop code base and make sure that new PRs follow the Backdrop coding standards specified on api.backdropcms.org. So automates that to take a little bit of the work off of everyone, and plus people that are filing PRs will get pretty much instantaneous feedback if there's like something they can clean up before any human gets a chance to look at their thing. But we need review on that, and it's a little bit tricky since it involves the two sites communicating with each other. So just drawing attention to it basically, and if anybody has any opinions, then they want to click on those and say so, that's fine too.
This is great. It excites me.
Yeah, it should be useful.
Yeah. Okay, how do we test it?
That's kind of part of what I need review with. Like, as far as I understand it, the way to test it is to have it be merged in. I don't know if there's like a safer way to do this. I can't see any safer way. I'm not super familiar with ZenCI, but Gore helped me out a bit getting this stuff going. And yeah, so I don't know if there's a safer way to get the testing going.
Okay, I will, I noticed he's added a comment that says it needs to be tested too. I'll add a follow-up that asks him how we should test it. I'll also take a look at the one for, wait, there's two. Yeah, the issue for backdropcms.org. If that doesn't look dangerous, I'm happy to merge that for testing, but we need to be careful about the one for Backdrop. We might want to use a separate repository. I don't know how we would hook that up to the ZenCI thing, but yeah, let's talk to Gore and see what he recommends.
And yeah. I'm not sure how this would work. Like, will it go through the files that we changed only for the PR that is filed, or is the next PR after we made it's going to be a huge sort of like, and I have a huge sort of like comments of things that need to be fixed?
Yeah, that's one of the questions I asked on one of the PRs. Like, I think I currently have it pointing at
admin menu. Yeah, admin menu.
Well, I think it's pointing at core modules. So for example, it's hitting admin menu, but it is catching lots of things that it says are not up to coding standards. So one possibility is to like just point it at core modules, one module or even one file, and like work through getting it, or just do the whole shebang, so yeah, that's up for question. It's up for.
And there's a few things that might need to be discussed also. Like I think that it automatically converts the hash color, the hex, whichever ones can be converted to 3-digit ones. But I think that whoever was working on the color module mentioned that we were actually there was a need to be converting the 3-digit ones to the full hex thing. So we might need to revise our coding standards with regards to that. So why should we be using the 3 digits? And, since we are having color module in core that will require the 60-digit one, why would we even introduce that functionality? If we made sure that everything was 6-digit in the first place, we wouldn't have that as a blocker for the color module. Yeah. Unless it's a blocker, but from my understanding, it is.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. What I would like to see is, before we introduce the code sniffer, that we resolve all of the issues that it would highlight, so that our pull requests don't suddenly get littered with a bunch of stuff after we make the merge. But that might mean we either need to change some of our coding standards, for example, the hex codes, so that they make more sense, or that we set some very specific configurations in the code sniffer that are exceptions for Backdraft. Like if we run into any of those in doing all of our sniffing, that we're like, oh, well, this is this way for whatever reason, we need to keep it, just to make sure that we can get the number of errors in those initial reports down to 0, or a manageable number close to 0. That would be good.
We can define the rules however we like. So whatever we want to match Backdraft, to match the API site, we should do.
Yeah.
Another idea is if we could run it locally, just to get a feel of how many files are being changed, or if someone could run it locally and then file separate requests per module to sanitize everything, then it would be safer to just turn it on. It would be less things that it would be complaining about, because it would have already, we would have already made sure that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll open an issue in a meta, and I'll run it locally, and I'll give the instructions on how to run it locally, and then we can attack from there. Well, on the meta, we can divide it up per module or per file or something.
Yeah,
that's
great.
That's a great idea. I can help with that. Are you going to file the meta, or do you want me to file one and then?
I can do it either way if you're on it.
If you do it, then I'll be able to just split. I think a per module thing is a good idea, like small chunks of, like, split off of that meta issue.
Okay, sounds good.
Yep.
Great. Next issue in general discussion is Badcamp. Mike recommended we talk about this. I'm just going to say 2 things. If there's other things, Mike, you want to bring up, feel free. Session submissions are open and registration right now. So if you're interested in coming to Bay Area Drupal Camp, sign up now. If you have a session to submit one now. If you want to submit one on Backdraft, that's great. I don't know how many Backdraft sessions will be accepted. I think last year they only took 1 or 2. But I don't know how many sessions they're planning on accepting in general. So submit them anyway, see what happens. I don't have any insight into that this year. And then the other thing I wanted to say was we are doing a Backdraft Summit again, and I wanted to open it up to everyone about what you wanted to do during the summit. Like, do we want to do sessions, or do we want to talk about the future, or do we want, like, what kinds of content do we want? And then we can start trying to organize speakers as well. So if you have anything you want to talk about and want to be a speaker, let me know. If there's anything you want to hear as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's great that we're doing the summit. I think that it is, if we get some sessions, that would be great. I guess my only piece of feedback from previous years is it would help to make clear what sessions and maybe what times of the summit are sort of introductory for new users, what is updates since like last year and stuff like that, like what's new in Backdraft, and then like what's inside discussions like planning and the future. Just because I think in the past it hasn't been like, those are like 3 different audiences and it hasn't been clear who should go to what. Okay. So maybe at the summit we have times for each and just make sure to publicize that so if people want to intro, they can come in a certain hour, and if they want to, and we can talk about the future, or they can come later in the day or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Also, if we could have it near the nonprofit summit, that would be good. I don't know if they've done locations yet for the summits, but last time not being near the nonprofit summit wasn't good because people couldn't bounce back and forth.
Yeah.
I don't know who to talk to about doing that, but that should be something that we should try to make sure happens.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know where they've put us and where the nonprofit is, but I can ask.
Okay.
All right. Anyone have anything else to add about Backdrop or Bad Camp or anything else we talked about today?
Mentioning the word summit, I'm not sure if this is specific to this Badcamp, but we at some point discussed something about an online sort of like summit, so that people from all over the world can sort of like participate. And we at some point said that it would be a good idea if we organize that around, I don't know, New Year or something like that, with a new release, Gen 15, when we usually have the first release of the year. And I just thought, where are we with that? Are we still planning to do something like that?
So it was Jonathan Degerhart who had volunteered to help us run an online conference. And I know he's been really busy with other things lately and hasn't been as focused on that. It might be worthwhile. I think there was an issue in the Backdrop Semester org queue about that. And it might be worthwhile to hang him on that issue and see when he thinks would be a good time to focus on that. I'm happy to facilitate however is necessary. Like, even if he doesn't have time to run the thing, if he could just, have a meeting with us and do a download on what we need to know about doing it, we could probably figure it out, especially with his help in various different places. And that might be a more reasonable time commitment for him. But yeah, I think it would be good to figure that out. Maybe even trying to do something in conjunction with Bad Camp might be good. So then if we have a bunch of people in a room and a bunch of content we could do like online the day before, the day after, that might be something that would encourage people who weren't in the room for the conversation to get involved in those conversations as follow-ups or precursors or something to what's going on. So ideas, I guess.
When is the Badcamp coming? Like, which date?
Good question. It is not in the header. It is October 24th through 27th. All right, is there anything from anyone else? Oh, I added something I almost forgot. In the last meeting, we were talking about community outreach. Gregory brought up that he wanted to start a meetup in Melbourne, Australia, and was curious if anyone else was interested in chatting with him. And I mentioned that I'd also like to do one here in Oakland. Mike, I know you're local now. There's some other people. I think Luke mentioned some interest in one as well. Might be good to start rumors of those and see if we can find a location or a venue that would be suitable. I was thinking, at least for the one here in Oakland, it might be good to start them off as more of a social gathering and less of a session, which is what a lot of the Drupal meetups have turned into, just so that it would be sort of informal and we could talk about whatever it was people wanted to talk about at that time, rather than needing to schedule something in advance. And I think it might be better sort of community building event. I don't know if there is a bunch of stuff people need to hear about that we could schedule sessions for. We could do that too. But just to try and start off light and fun and try to make it less of a grudging time commitment and more of a thing that people look forward to. At least to start off, it would be good to get people who maybe aren't even working with Backdrop involved sooner.
That sounds good to me. Do you have any suggestions on where we should meet up?
Well, so the easiest place for me is at the beer garden across the street from my house, but I'm also open to doing things that are close to public transit so that a bunch of people can get there. So I know you and Luke share co-working space in downtown Oakland. Is that right?
No, my co-working space is in Alameda, so it's not the best because you need to take a bus from the BART, so that's not ideal.
Yeah, there's also some stuff in like near downtown area that I'm pretty sure we could get access to. So I'll put out some feelers and see. But I think something like near the Kalamuna office might be a good option, or yeah, there's some co-working spaces right near Lake Merritt BART, which could be good.
I mean, if we're going to do work and just like look at projectors and stuff like that, we would probably have it in the Kalamuna offices.
Yeah.
But if you want people, if it's more social, we should probably meet somewhere that's more
social.
Less like an office.
Yeah.
Anyway, we could talk about this at another time when people who are not geographically nearby are not on the call.
Yeah. So I think we were thinking about setting up a forum post for people who want to do meetups, and that way we can get a feel for people who like aren't in these areas. There may be a number of people in a different area that also want to get started. So I'll take a look at the forum after this meeting and see if there's already a conversation about meetups, or if not, I'll start one and we can follow up there.
Do we gather any data from the people that have already registered accounts in the bit.org site for their location?
Yeah, we asked them we asked for location, but it's optional.
Yes, sure.
I think, unfortunately, everybody who hasn't provided one is listed as being in Afghanistan, because that's the first one in the list.
That as well.
So we're going to have a lot of people in Afghanistan. I'm just warning you right now. But yeah, for those who have provided data, we could figure out where most people are geographically located.
And if do we have any field that says something similar to just permit us to contact them? If we could set by those criteria, so who, for example, is in Australia and likes to be contacted about various things, then I could send out an email or something.
We don't have explicit permission to send them anything other than our newsletter. So what I think would be cool is if we did a little research ahead of time and just said, generally speaking, where are people? And then we put together a newsletter where, like, FYI, we're starting meetups. Here are a couple of cities where they are. And then sent out the newsletter and said, if you're interested, check out this forum post. Then that might be enough of a driver to get more people there. And then in the forum post, we could say, like, want to hear about newsletters, sign up. Want to hear about meetups, sign up for whatever. And we could have a more specific newsletter information venue that way. So if we do a little research and a little promotion, we might be able to get
sounds fair.
People in. But, yes. Okay. Anything else we should talk about today?
I'm going to Drupal GovCon. I don't know if they're backdrop friendly, but anecdotally, if anyone's in the Washington area and wants to chat about backdrop, that would be cool.
It might also be good to ask them if they're backdrop friendly, and if they are, we could put them on the events page.
Good point. I'll do that.
Okay. Anyone have anything else? No. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and stop the broadcast. But if anybody wants to hang out and watch kittens, I will try and chase them around there for you. All right. Thanks, everyone, for coming in the meeting.
Bye.
We're going to have a broadcast.